everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. As always, please hit that subscribe button. It's right down there and it's free. That enables us to keep coming to you guys as often as possible with as many interviews as possible. So please hit that subscribe button, like our content, share it, talk about it, be about it, each one, teach one. And we appreciate your guys' support in getting us this far. Now, today we have the honor and the privilege of being joined by Speech from Arrested Development. Thank you for coming through, sir.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure, brother. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So you put out two magnificent projects last year, very, very different one. As Speech, you put out Expansion, and then Arrested Development. How do you pronounce the title for is it X in love, fucking love? What are we doing?
For the F in love is what I call it, yeah.
Okay. So for the F in love, given that that's the title and you're not really known for profane music, what made that something you wanted to explore?
You know, honestly, I thought of For the Love, and it didn't feel good at all, and it didn't match my passion level. You know what I mean? So for the F in love, to me, felt right, and that was it. And I also felt like people would be surprised, you know, with an Arrested Development title being that, like, just by nature, it's like, what is Arrested Development doing? And that's good for me. Like, I like that. I like surprising people.
Okay. Well, you definitely achieved that goal with me, because
good.
When I saw that, I was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
And also, both with Expansion and For the F in Love, the album covers, as you've been doing for a while, I've gotten away from pictures of either you or the group and are featuring women on them. So what has been the angle and the motivation behind that?
A few things. One is I love that style. Like Ohio Players used to do that a lot. A lot of Brazilian artists that I love used to do that. And a lot of blues artists, you know, back in the, like, just Blue Note artists, a lot of them would use women on their covers. Women inspire me. And then also, I have a site called Black Existence, and it's basically showcasing Black beauty across the planet, right? So a lot of photographers send me their work to post, because we have 100-something thousand followers. So it's a pretty robust little IG page. And you know, I've gotten to know their work. And so I was like, yo, would you be cool doing something for an Arrested Development cover? And most of them are like, yes. And then the ones that say no, of course, I just don't work with them. But the ones that love that idea and love sort of coming into the hip hop space and the music space with their photography, we do stuff together.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely had the old soul records feel to it.
Exactly. So that's what I wanted.
Yeah. And the other intriguing thing about Expansion and For the F in Love is that even though they came out both in 2021 at the ends of the beginning and end of the year respectively, the albums, I think, sonically and thematically are drastically different.
Very true.
And so that being said, speaking chronologically with Expansion, that one, other than A Different World especially, but the beginning and really the middle of the album especially, it's so much about dance, and it has a very different club, happy, up-tempo vibe and feel.
Yeah.
So what made you want to explore that juxtaposed against A Different World, which is all about the failings of society and our government and January 6th riot and such?
You know, Different World was literally the first song on the album, but it's the last song that was created. And it was created, I think, the night of the January 6th insurrection. It might have been the night after, and it was released within that week. Like, I think we had that song out, or I had that song out, I'm going to say, like, within 7 days of the insurrection. And to me, it was just a raw emotion that I felt when I saw what pretty much the world saw on television and with the January 6th insurrection. And so I wanted to get it out as fast as possible. And technology now allows for that. Like, that was something that 30 years ago in the beginning of my career I could have never done. You know what I mean? So that was just a great opportunity. The rest of the record was done. And in fact, it was done early 2020. So it's actually older than than Arrested Development's last album, Don't Fight Your Demons. It's older than all of that. So, so I think the only two, like there might've been two new songs that I put on there, some remixes by Configure and A Different World.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the reason it has a different energy than even Don't Fight Your Demons is I was on a different level and just on a different wavelength. And I was also working with other creatives that was just on a different wavelength. And so I just sort of opened up my heart to allow that creativity to be what it was. And then, and that was all pre-pandemic too. So the entire Expansion album was pre-pandemic material.
Because, well, that's interesting because I was wondering what the separation, because the Arrested Development and then going into the debut album that you had, this self-titled eponymous debut album, Speech, of course there were some differences and you had grown and evolved as an artist, but this is, to me, you guys have put out so much material and you as a solo artist as well, but it's back to back, they were so dramatically different. Yeah. So what you know, I think with modern musicians, we don't see that as much as we did, say, with Sly and the Family Stone or the Beatles or some of these classic artists that maybe our parents grew up listening to, or we did as kids. For us, people tend to stay in the same vibe, especially sonically. So what made you comfortable, willing, and wanting to explore such drastically different sounds?
To be honest with you, I feel most comfortable writing anything that comes to my mind. So whether it's singing songs or whether it's rhyming songs and hip hop, and they don't all seem to fit in an Arrested Development landscape right now. So I've decided, I sort of made a decision that my speech music would be more experimental, more sing songs, and a lot less boom bap oriented. And then what Arrested Development's been doing for the last two albums, Don't Fight Your Demons and For the Effing Love, has been a lot more boom bap, you know, in the lines of, I don't know, you know, just basically golden era hip hop, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of that has to do with who I've been working with. I started working with a UK producer, Configure, and he's a boom bap sort of extraordinaire kind of dude. So I love boom bap too. It's my favorite era of hip hop pretty much. So us working together has probably closed my, like, the width of what I would normally put out on a record. It's made it more narrow and focused for Arrested Development. And that's actually been a winning formula for us lately. Like, as you said, I've been releasing music with Arrested Development since 2000. And well, since the 90s, of course, then we stopped, and then 2000. And the last two albums by far have been the most celebrated music that the group has done since the 90s. So there's something that we're doing that's making fans pay attention and turning heads, and I love that and I want that. And I think it's that more boom bap style. I think it just resonates with people for numerous reasons. One is the boom bap style has not been prevalent in mainstream hip hop for decades, you know? And so those of us that grew up on that style of hip hop miss it. And we're not really being serviced a lot in the mainstream music space, you know, like, so in other words, if you like Lil Durk, or if you love, you know, I don't know, whoever is sort of more of the newer artists, you probably don't even like boom bap hip hop in the first place. To you, it's old and it's dated. Whereas for someone like me who grew up with that, I'm waiting to hear more of it. You know what I mean? Like I want to hear more of that. And even if I appreciate what's going on now and the newer and younger artists, I still want to celebrate what I also consider to be the foundations of hip hop too. So I think it's winning for that reason. A lot of people are really like gravitating towards what AD is doing.
Yeah. And I think with For the F and Love, that's reflected by the caliber of guest appearances that you have throughout the album and collaborators. And one in particular, the one that threw me for the most surprise was Freddie Foxxx, because for those that of course know him also as Bumpy Knuckles and for his other activities outside of music.
Yeah.
That was a very jarring but welcome, and I definitely enjoyed it. But what made him, of all people, somebody that you're like, man, let me get Freddie Foxxx on the album?
You know what's funny? Like when me and Configure started messing with the track, the song was called We Are Not in Kansas, right? And I had already written my verses. I'd written the chorus. The track was banging, but it was very dramatic. And it's got a lot of piano. It's got a lot of fast-paced piano. And it almost feels to me like a movie score. And I didn't want, well, first of all, the subject matter of the song was me back in the 90s, first going to New York, coming from the South and coming from Milwaukee. And just just being culture shocked. And all of the new things that I was being exposed to in a very short amount of time and very fast. And I felt like I've always been a fan of Bumpy Knuckles. Like for me, it was the Militia joint, right? So I always loved his Gangster, the Gangster record where his voice is just very, that type of like growl in his voice. I always liked that. And I always felt like that would be dope. And so I reached out to him. And it was funny, his response. And I was so like encouraged by his response. He's like, it's about time. That's literally the first thing he said to me. And I was like, I love this because he didn't feel like this was a weird collaboration. He felt like it's about time. And I just love that. Like, cause to me, I could work with anybody. Like I could work with the hardest of hard artists as long as I'm able to be me and as long as they're able to be them. And we find some way to make the record a synergy that makes sense. And to me, this song was perfect for that because the storyline made sense from my perspective. And then I handed over to him to show his perspective and then back to me. And I personally love that collaboration.
No, I thought it was great. And that's one of my favorite songs on For the F and Love. But I think We're Not in Kansas also intrigued me so much because you're talking about Nothing Can Save Us, We're in a Tornado. So then I was like, is this Wizard of Oz, obviously? But then you were saying so many things about this song, because then you were also saying I never claimed to be Jay-Z. Yeah. So what is that a reference to? Why'd you say that?
Yeah, because, Jay-Z really rose to fame because of the street legend that he already had as an already successful drug dealer. And I don't come from that background. And not only that, I tend to talk down about it because of what it does to the Black community, right? So I just want to make clear, like in that song that, okay, well, I'm not from this world. And I think a lot of times it's so assumed that everyone in rap is from that world, like especially successful rap, like anything that is sort of becomes a household name. Most of that is sort of assumed that you're from that world. And I don't think there's been many hip hop records that actually say I'm not. It might be implied by the way they dress that they're not or whatever, but like Kanye said it in one of his records, is like, and I'm not saying I grew up broke or anything, but he just wanted the nice sweaters or what have you, right? So it was like, that was a lyric from him. But other than that, I don't really hear a lot of hip hop records that just say another viewpoint of Black existence. And I wanted to make sure to say that this is another reality that people feel. And I wanted to make I wanted to make the juxtaposition very clear. Like launder to me means laundromat, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to laundering money and drug laundering and all the, money laundering. I wanted to make it clear, like there's a lot of realities for Black people. And I felt like um, over the years, probably for decades now, it has morphed to this wide experience for Black people that we had in the late 80s in hip hop and early 90s, where, you had anybody but like Tribe Called Quest that had like their first album, like had like rice hats from like the Asian culture and dashikis and you had all the way to NWA from Compton and everything in between. And I think it morphed from that type of diversity to this very small lens of everybody. And the more realer they are, everybody comes from the game and everybody's in the drug game. Everybody's, been shot at 9 times or whatever. And that had become more of the narrative. So I wanted to really make it clear again, like, no, that's not the only narrative. Here's another one, and be true to it too. Because I think there's a lot of MCs that aren't from that narrative of the drug game, but they're not going to say it on record because their credibility somehow is questioned, or, what are you doing in the game talking like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I like the fact that there's something different being spoken about and it's unapologetic.
Yeah, well, definitely. Because even if you look at Milwaukee with yourself, and I guess Cuckoo Cow would be the biggest, probably. Yeah. You guys are diametrically opposed. My projects and then Arrested Development, not the same vibe.
Not the same at all.
Yeah. So also on For the Effin' Love, another song that I thought was very interesting and important was the Never Had Your Back song. You also did a video for that with some interesting fisheye lens work there. But I'm very intrigued because I've talked with a lot of people about this, but one of the most notable songs that I remember praising Black women in particular was Black Woman by the Jungle Brothers. Yeah. But we don't get that many songs, and we get many on the other end of the spectrum. So for you in 2022, what made you want to celebrate and try to, reinforce the strength and beauty of Black women in such a manner?
So, you make a good point. Jungle Brothers did Black Woman. Our first album, we did Natural. But it's few and far between that you're going to hear a hip hop record that's really done any numbers that lifts up Black women throughout the time of hip hop, and especially since the 90s. So I now have a daughter who's 24, and she's been raised on hip hop music. So her diet is bitch, hoe, trick, thought, and every other thing. And she doesn't even know about Jungle Brothers, much less, she hardly listens to Arrested Development, much less the Jungle Brothers or Tribe, And so my point is that there's generations of kids, and in a more personal way, my own daughter, that I'm talking to in this song. And it's just basically trying to widen her mind to say, listen, this is, you're not that, you're this. And society is sort of putting on her who she is before she has a chance to, have her own self-image and her own sort of world vision of what she wants to be. You know what I mean? So, yeah, so it was very intentional to try to make something that lifts up Black women and also speaks to my daughter in a personal way. Now those conversations I had with her were, a lot of that was as she was growing up, but even as a young adult that she is, we have these kind of conversations. So Langston Hughes and Mary McKeeba, Angela Davis, facts that combat the narrative that, we're doomed as Blacks and nothing could save us and all of this stuff. Freedom fighting is the proper behavior, like all of those kind of conversations is what we have. And I just wanted to make sure to do a song like that actually talks about it.
Be sure to check out The History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
What's that 5 on Young TV back with NWA?
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the street. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.